welcome to this episode of Conversation with a Chef. I'm Jo Ritty and I love sharing with you the conversations I get to have with talented and passionate chefs. It's the backstory, if you will, to the food they're putting up. I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the lands where this conversation took place, land which was never ceded, land where communities came together to eat seasonally, locally and without exhausting resources. I pay my respects to the elders past and present and to any First Nations people listening today. Now, the role of Head of Fermentation is not something you come across every day. In fact, Koether is something of a pioneer in this space and holds one of the first such positions in Australia, a role with the Mulberry Group which was uniquely crafted around her expertise. Caitlin's work is all about preservation, finding ways to extend the life of seasonal produce, create new flavours and reduce waste. Her approach balances creativity and science, turning sometimes imperfect ingredients into something extraordinary. With the resources of Common Ground Farm on the Bellarine Peninsula, she works closely with the chefs in the group, as well as the farmers, to use ingredients that enhance menus in thoughtful ways. From condiments to non-alcoholic beverages, her creations are seamlessly integrated into dishes, showcasing how fermentation can elevate flavour while supporting the planet. I sat down to chat with Caitlin at Little Molli in Abbotsford, and then ate a delicious smoked chicken tartine with chickpea miso mayo and pickled celery, and drank a strikingly blue Miso Wave, which is a blue spirulina shake inspired by the look of the Erewhon Coconut Cloud Smoothie. As the first conversation with a chef for the year, Caitlin has set the bar high. Passionate, articulate and a joy to talk to, Caitlin is one to watch. And if I were you, dear listener, I would be getting to Little Molli as quickly as you can to experience the goodness for yourself.
Let's go upstairs.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll show you the view as well.
Yeah, I went up there with
Alex?
yeah. I spoke to Alex when I wrote about it for Broadsheet, but then he came on the podcast as well. So it was good.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that. Yeah, he just gave us a menu.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So.
What a team! So innovative, so good.
Yeah, I'm quite enjoying working with Kayla. Do you know Kayla?
No.
So she runs a bar program.
Yeah, so I've heard the name.
Yeah, and she does tons of fermentation.
Yeah.
So she's been filling in gaps of things that I've been thinking about for years, but I haven't touched on, because generally yeast fermentation you don't use very much in food because it produces ethanol, alcohol.
Yeah.
But now that I'm working with her, I'm able to kind of venture towards some of the research I haven't been able to do before.
Okay. Wow.
Nice and quiet up here.
Thank you. Oh, it's beautiful. I haven't been through in this part. I don't think it had any furniture in it when I was here or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, when I came up, are they still doing the veggie beds and stuff out there or not so much?
Yeah.
There were chickens there,
They're gone now.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know where I think they've gone to somewhere that's bigger.
Yeah.
It's very small for them and windy.
Yeah. But what a view, isn't it? Amazing.
It is,
Having that perspective on the city is amazing.
Yeah. Sometimes I come up here, because I haven't really worked in cafes before, so my schedule is new to me, and sometimes I come up here and watch a sunrise.
Oh my God, that's so
I love.
nice.
Yeah,
so nice.
It is.
So I just record it and then I write it up as like a Q&A kind of thing on the website, and then it's a podcast as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I looked at through some of your stuff. I haven't had a ton of time recently.
No, of course not.
I thought after the holiday season it would be less crazy, but it's not.
Yeah.
So you've been interviewing chefs for some time now, right?
I have a few years now, and there's a few hundred episodes there, but I don't think I've really improved my technological. So I just go for the rustic and hope that know that the conversation is the key thing.
I mean, if it's comfortable, it's probably easier for listeners to listen to as well.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did speak to a chef last year, and she did say to me about getting the lapel mics. But I quite like the atmospheric quality of it. And I listened to Rob Lowe does a podcast called Literally, and he talks to all his, Hollywood mates. But he spoke to Arnold Schwarzenegger on Arnold, like he's my mate, Arnold Schwarzenegger's farm. And like all of a sudden you could just hear like the horse and the geese and stuff. And he just really embraced that. And I was like, that's great. I'm just like Rob Lowe.
It's a setting, it's a vibe, it's the atmosphere.
Sure. It's a shame there aren't the chickens out there anymore. So Caitlin, it's lovely to meet you and get to talk to you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you for coming.
And I first of all want to ask, because I've never seen this before, but Head of Fermentation, what does that mean? And is that a new position for Little Molli?
It is. I would probably say that it might be the first position in Australia of its title. There would be some small fermentation programs run in venues, but this position, it was sort of created around me and my experience. And what it means is that I focus on preservation, but the term that is sort of applicable for the general public is fermentation. So if you consider preservation as an overarching umbrella, fermentation is one aspect under that umbrella, which encompasses different techniques that basically just look at food in season and how to preserve it. So you can use it throughout the year. It creates new flavors. It creates new textures. So this role, which I'm really quite excited about, is something to look at the produce from the farm and how to preserve it through and provide it throughout the year. It also is really good for waste management as well. So if things are not perfect, if they're imperfect produce coming from the farm, I can always do something with it. Or I can look at the large amounts of waste that we produce in the group from the different restaurants and cafes and see how to turn that into something that's a usable product. So it really just closes the loop. It's a bit science-based, it's a bit creative-based, and it's sort of born out of this interesting necessity that I don't think the group necessarily knew that they initially needed, but it's beneficial for everybody, I think.
So you're head of fermentation across the group?
Yes.
Right. Wow. Okay, that's huge. And the farm is really impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So that it's really great to be able to have access to that. And then I spoke to some chefs who talked a lot about working with a gardener who grows what they want him to grow, as opposed to the gardener growing something and then the chefs having to use. So it's a garden that's attached to a winery. How does it work with the garden out on the Bellarine Peninsula? Yeah. How does that work with the chefs and the culinary directive here? Do you talk with the people growing, or how? Is that what works?
We do. I think they were ironing out some just procedures in the last couple of years, and definitely turning over some land to do some more sustainable farming, getting the soil really healthy. But now the chefs are giving input to the farmers before growing season. So that would be like at the beginning of winter, about what we would like to see them grow. So with this position, we're initiating a beverage program, a non-alcoholic beverage program, along with some condiments. So I know that I'm going to ask them for very specific products next year. Yeah. And then they have got some experimental, smaller growth stuff that they're playing around with to see how it grows. And because it's always about the beginning process starts with how does it grow on this land, and can we expand so that the chefs can then host it on their menu or feature it on their menu and be able to continue supply. Yeah. So it's a bit from both sides. I think that the farmers always have things they're interested in growing, and then the chefs always have things they're interested in the farmers growing. So it's a bit of both worlds coming together. Sure.
Yeah. And as you say, I think it's a really important point about what can you grow on that land. And I think, it's maybe not something we talk a lot about here, that terroir kind of idea of what actually functions in this location with this climate, as well as growing things that we're more familiar with. So I think as a colonial country, some of the growing techniques have been imposed or have been dictated to by pallets from the other side of the world, where the soil is quite different. Yeah. So I think it's interesting to have that shift in approach.
Yeah, it's those products as well have really stripped nutrients from the soil and the growing techniques, and it happens everywhere. But what we're growing now in Australian soil isn't meant to be grown in Australian soil. So these farms, so Common Ground's one of them, and then I've worked with a few farms in the past as well that just really focus on soil health at the base, at the foundation of being able to provide sustainable produce done in a responsible way.
Yeah, yeah. So just to go back to what you started off saying about, the title Head of Fermentation, what does that look like on a menu? So say at Molli or Little Molli, where do I see your stamp?
So I have a mental landscape that in my mind I can see preservation through everything. So when you brine chicken, it imparts salt, which is an antimicrobial, and when you smoke it, and you cook the chicken, then it denatures proteins and changes the compound structure and deposits smoke on the surface of the chicken. So in a sense, the way that I approach food is about the ability to extend shelf life, but also impart really delicious flavor. But on a very more basic foundation, you can see it in the menu so Alex is buying some stuff from me to use on his menu at Molli, and it's really interesting when chefs use the condiments that I've been producing for years, and I use them in a similar way on repeat because it's something that I'm familiar and comfortable with, and something that guests generally really like. But it's interesting to see the way that other chefs use it. So we're going to start expanding that program, but on the Little Molli menu you can see it in the form of vinegars, misos. We have tons of different types of condiments: black garlic HP, barrel-aged Worcestershire sauce, and they're really gently woven through each dish. So I decided that when I structured this menu, I wanted to focus on doing stuff on bread in a really thoughtful way. So we have tartines on the menu, which are just so fun. It's an open-faced sandwich, so you get 50% less bread, which means you get more. It's a better eating experience with the filling or the topping. So we have smoked chicken folded with miso mayo, really simple chickpea mayo and miso, but it's really delicious. And then it's got pickled celery on top and salsa verde. Our rolled lamb belly lamchetta is dressed in a black garlic HP. So I make the black garlic and then I make the HP with my barrel-aged Worcestershire sauce. That barrel-aged Worcestershire sauce, which is, I make the Worcestershire sauce and then age it in a port barrel. That one is used to season a jus for a French dip that you dip the sandwich in. So it wouldn't be, for your average consumer that might be a little bit afraid of the term fermentation because they don't know what it is, because the unknown can be scary, right?
And we have this idea of maybe funky.
Yep.
Kimchi.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people are only associate with those kinds of things, right?
Which is, if it's done in such a way that, so I love kimchi and I actually think it's quite a clean flavor if you break it down into its components, but for a person to smell it and it has age on it, or they're smelling the fish, then fish and vegetables aren't necessarily associated with each other. So if you do it in such a way that it's done well and approachable and thoughtful, then it really starts to, you can train someone's palate, you can educate them. There's a lot of opportunities with what fermentation is, because it always ties back to sustainability, waste management, and then ultimately flavor, but really good practices and techniques. So when I incorporate it through the menu, I'm doing it to, in this scenario, enhance flavor. But the side that not everyone sees is when my veg purveyor calls me up and goes, "Caitlin, I've got 9 kilos of yellow capsicums," which is the phone call I got today. "They're going to throw them out. Do you want them?" And I say, "Yep, I'll take them. I'll turn them into a condiment." So
great. And as you say, that's that waste kind of management as well. And so great that they know to call you. I love that. How do you know about this? So as you say, it's quite sciencey, and you have a chef background, but obviously a huge interest. Where did you learn about all the preserving and fermenting techniques?
So I was lucky enough 10 years ago now, maybe more, maybe 11 years ago now, to start at a restaurant called Bar Tartine in San Francisco. And someone had handed me the Wild Fermentation book by Sandor Katz, and I read it, and I thought it was really interesting.
And prior to that, I had read a book called On Food and Cooking by Harold McGee, which is like the Bible of why things happen the way that they do and why things are the way they are. And I just love to know exactly why something is happening, so then you can build on that technique, evolve it, apply it, change it, whatever. And at Bar Tartine, they were a fermentation hub. They were an incredible, they're now closed, but it was this couple named Nick and Courtney who actually started doing fermentation because Courtney's gut health wasn't great. So she was eating in such a way that she had to, but imparting that knowledge in the restaurant. And it became a really impactful and important restaurant. So we did everything from dairy fermentation to non-alcoholic fermented sodas to lacto-fermented pickles to koji stuff. So a broad range of different fermentation techniques way before its time. And I just fell in love, and then I never lost it.
Yeah. And it sounds like you've got a few things on the go. So when you're barrel aging, was that the
Worcestershire? Yeah.
How long are you aging that for?
Ideally, it really depends on the size and the surface of the barrel. Right now I have quite a small barrel, which means that because it's small, there's less liquid, which means there's more surface area, so I can go pretty quick. But it depends on flavor. So that will be, in terms of ferments on a timeline, it could be anywhere from a week to 6 months. So I have the daunting task of starting my gochujang, which everyone loves, the Korean pepper paste, and that takes 6 months or more.
Okay. So are you a spreadsheet person, or are you a...
I am, but all of this is listed in my head.
Are you for real? That's impressive. Because how many, like at any given time, how many things you've got on the go?
A lot.
Yeah, okay.
A lot. So I do, although it is listed in my brain, I also handwrite lists to check through every day. But I know that once a week I'll have to go and look at and taste through my ferments. So they're alive and active, so they're kind of like... They're like the plants I have at home or the cat that I need to feed at home, where they need to be nurtured and you need to have introspection into what's going on with them. So it's touch, taste, visual. So over the last 10 years, I would say every day for once a week, within reason, I've had different projects on the go that I have to monitor. So it's kind of just part of my daily activity. My weekly activity.
So when you're touching, tasting, seeing, what do you want to feel and taste and see?
You're generally, with fermentation, you're producing acid or ethanol, and that's what the preservation is. So you're looking to make sure there's no surface mold, no growth on the surface, which does happen pretty frequently. And then there are some other things that grow on the surface, like cob yeast, and then there's certain procedures around that where you monitor it, but you taste it for acidity. Is it producing sufficient lactic acid bacteria for like your dill cucumber pickle, or acetic acid for your vinegar pickles? Is it producing ethanol? Does it need to be burped? All of these different things. So is it too hot in the room? I actually had that problem up here the other day when it got quite hot on the weekend where it was 40 degrees. All of my carrot pickles pretty much exploded from the inside out because the liquid got so hot.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So
yeah.
And that was on my weekly check. I was like, cool, I started this a week before. It's time to look at them. And then they deteriorated, which is just, it brings me back around to realizing that fermentation and decay are two sides of the same coin. Fermentation is on a journey toward decay. As fermenters, we are just sort of manipulating and sculpting the microorganism's journey to produce the desired results. But linearly, that food would have gone down the similar biological process, just toward decay rather than edibility.
So I used to listen to a radio show, and they had a weekly slot where they would say, can I soda stream this? And they got various liquids and they soda streamed them.
I've seen that because I'm researching about carbon dioxide now.
Can you ferment and preserve anything? Or are there things that are better, that lend themselves better to that process?
Oh, definitely. About 6 years ago, when the Noma fermentation book came out, I went down a rabbit hole of how to preserve fruit besides lacto-fermentation, because there's always trends in food, and there are upticks in what chefs are interested in doing, but they often don't understand why, when that trend is happening. They just kind of want to be a part of it. So I learned that fruit can be preserved really well, but fermented really poorly. It produces ethanol quickly. It doesn't necessarily hold its shape. There's some fruits that have a natural outer protective layer, like apples, which are better. But soft fruits like blueberries and strawberries, they just fall apart, and then they don't taste good.
No, so the aim is always that it tastes good. That is the aim.
Yeah, and that texturally it will stay together.
Yeah. What's your favourite ingredient to use?
My favourite ingredient. I am always in pursuit of umami. So I tend to use, although it's not the main focus, I use it a lot. I use a lot of misos. So if I want to incorporate, and I'm quite good at constructing vegan food without you knowing it's vegan, because plant-based stuff is really interesting and delicious for me. So what I'll do is I'll know that I want to take a nut or a seed and use it in a dish and do some forethought and planning, and then I'll make a miso out of that nut or seed. So then when I'm making like a really luscious cashew butter, then I have cashew miso to season it in place of salt. So what you're getting is not just the salt element to season that puree or nut butter, but you're also getting umami without the consumer generally knowing that it's a miso. It's just extra delicious.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I love fresh vegetables, especially in summer. There's quite a lot you can do with it. One of my favorite techniques is dehydrating and then rehydrating. So it's about to be zucchini season, or it's starting now with the farm. So I like to peel the zucchini, take the skin off, dehydrate it, and set that aside, and then dehydrate the zucchini itself to a certain percentage of moisture loss. So it's a little rubbery, and then you can boil it in a liquid, and you get this really meaty, delicious zucchini steak-like thing. Wow. Powder the skin, sift it over, and then you've reconstructed a zucchini. But it has more flavor.
Yeah. Do you think about these things 24/7?
I think about them a lot.
Yeah, right. Because that feels like a lot of thought went into that. That's incredible. And so you sort of mentioned a few different things, and there's different cultures have different ways of preserving. And so you've mentioned like miso, so Japanese and Korean and Scandinavian countries. Can you blend techniques, or do you have to remain authentic to one, or is there room for...
Not at all. I was Kayla from Molly and I are doing a class for bartenders in the next month, and I was just looking at different types of yeast in different cultures. So one of my favorite things to do is understanding that in probably all cultures in the world, fermentation is very deeply ingrained. Fermentation and preservation. Part of it is for nutritional value, part of it is for preservation, part of it is for just because it's good, because you can produce alcohol. So within those cultures, they may be called different things, but they are very similar. So for example, when I was looking at yeast earlier, there's something called Chinese Q, which is it's a certain cocktail of bacteria and yeast that produces Chinese wine. And then there's something in Korea that is called Noruk, which produces makgeolli, a cocktail of different types of bacteria and yeast. But then you have your SCOBY, which is kombucha, which is also a different symbiotic colony of bacteria yeast. So across different cultures, there is a lot of similarities, but with different nuances. So tying that all together and understanding how things produce slightly different flavors but the same end result is really cool.
Yeah. You need to put your own book out, I think. Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah. So where did it all start for you? Did you always know you wanted to be a chef?
Since I was 18, I was always quite creative, drawing, painting, creative thinking. And when I was 18 and and my parent, I know it was earlier than that actually, when they say you have to apply for college and choose your major, you go, what the fuck am I going to choose? I don't know. So I was actually forced in my curriculum in high school to take a different type of elective, because I was taking multiple languages, Latin, Spanish, all of that. So I needed to cut one of those out and take an elective for world experience. And I took a cooking class and I loved it. And I was like, I think I'm going to be a chef. And that was about a turnaround time of 2 weeks.
Wow.
Went to college for hospitality administration, hated all of the learning stuff, loved all of the cooking stuff. And here we are.
And it feels to me like you're quite self-taught as well, in terms of that you have a fascination and so you follow that in terms of research and so on. So, and you need that, don't you? You need that passion and excitement about things to keep you going on, in this industry.
Intrinsic motivation. You have to find what you love to be able to motivate yourself.
Yeah. And you've worked at some top restaurants around the world. Was it important to you to work at those places?
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to your previous question, to touch base on that, it was really interesting going from California, where everything's in abundance and a lot of stuff is available all year round, and not because it's being shipped from different parts of the country, but actually grown in California, to a Nordic country where even when you plant strawberries, they don't necessarily come to fruition in the summer. Like a country of scarcity, where growing seasons are difficult, and the things that do grow, the flavors are really extraordinary. It showed me two different worlds. So in Nordic cuisine, you have really beautiful potatoes and cabbages. They're really, really sweet and really juicy, which you don't see in California because it's not very hard to, you do, but not to the degree that it's so spectacularly delicious. But you need to put it through a rigorous process of testing it 7 different ways to see how you can produce a different dish every year. But it also goes with preservation as well. Preservation is a necessity to preserve in Nordic countries when things are in season. So Mirabelle plums, ramsons, which are a type of wild garlic, pine needles, different things like that. And then California, you have some really experimental, beautiful produce. And when you marry those two things together, you get a really extraordinary dish that you can compose, those two different types of knowledge.
Was it a culture shock? Did you go straight from California to Copenhagen?
I did. I hate winter. I'm from the winter.
Oh, yeah.
I'm from the New York area, and I know snow, but man, I just don't like cold weather.
Yeah.
So that was the days were in summer. The days were long. The sun would rise at 4 a.m. and set at 10 p.m. and that was. It sounds fun, but everyone would take advantage of it and really not stop. And then in winter, the sun would rise at 9 a.m. and set at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And it was quite dreary. And yeah, it was definitely a culture shock, I would say. Which is why I left Copenhagen and moved to Australia.
Yeah, you're right.
I like it here.
I was just there in October for 3 days, and it was, I think, quite mild. I actually had a beautiful sunny Sunday where I got up and had like a coffee and a cardamom bun, and just walked around everything. And as the sun was rising, it was just. I went to the Neuhafen, and just the colours of those buildings are amazing.
Yeah.
But I imagine when you're there for longer than 3 days, there are other things that come into play.
Yeah, it's a beautiful city to visit, and it's the cultural heritage. You can just see it in everything that exists there. But California really holds my heart, I would say.
Right.
Yeah, I just loved everything about San Francisco.
So you grew up in New York and you moved to California. How old were you when you were there?
So I lived there twice. So it was between 23 and 22 and 25, and then I moved to Copenhagen for a year, and then I came back, and then I left. Yeah. And I was there between 26 and 29.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Melbourne was a reaction to Copenhagen?
No, I got the travel bug.
Yeah.
And I love traveling, moving around. And at the time, going to live somewhere is the best way to immerse yourself in culture. So I knew I wanted to come over here to do 2 things. Travel Southeast Asia, which I did, and I loved it before COVID. And I've been back since. And then get certified in scuba diving, which I did on the Great Barrier Reef.
It's fantastic, yeah. And I think I thought from my very brief glimpse of Copenhagen that I don't want to say it reminded me of Melbourne because Copenhagen was there longer, but just that idea of coffee culture and smaller producers and people really caring about food. There was there was some overlaps, I thought. So there might not have been as much of a culture shock, perhaps. Although I'm from New Zealand, so I have to say Australians are different. So there might have been a bit of a culture shock, but I don't know that the weather's necessarily better in Melbourne.
I don't mind it. It's quite similar to San Francisco.
Okay.
Never gets that cold, but sometimes it gets grey and windy in the winter.
Yeah. It's nice to have 4 seasons in one day.
Yeah. That's unique. That's unique to Melbourne.
So when you are thinking of, all these multiple ideas that you've got going on in your head and so on, I mean, it sort of seems like a bit of a moot question because you seem inspired by everything, but where do you get your inspiration? Obviously from the ingredients and from the books that you're reading. Are there other places that you're looking, so other chefs or Instagram, whatever? Where do you look for that spark?
So this is an interesting question because on the way over to work today, I was thinking I actually haven't done much innovation recently. It's been a lot of research to understand like fundamentals that just to fill in gaps in knowledge. But where does that come from? So the thought process was, okay, the computer was invented whenever it was invented and then perfected, let's say late 80s, where there's a screen and a keyboard, right? So it's evolved to tablets, which you can write on a tablet with a pen, but most of the time you're sitting there typing away. So what's the next innovation? Do we remove the keyboard and there's something different? Where does innovation come with computers? So and then I thought back to food. How do I go back to the thought processes I used to have where I really thought about food in a way that was quite unique? And a lot of my inspiration comes from other cultures. So to understand what other people have tried and tested in fermentation, because they are ancient techniques. There's not a lot that are new, but there are new things that we can discover from the Western world toward Asian or Southeast Asian ingredients, or let's say Eastern Europe, just things that get less traffic by social media. I get a lot of inspiration from that. So tradition, heritage, things that are passed down and done really well, and preserved in such a way that we also need to continue preserving them for the future. So I get a lot of inspiration from that, but sometimes I just think about an ingredient and go, all right, what do I want to do with this that's weird? And how do I make that happen? And sometimes it doesn't work, but sometimes I go back to some of my old projects and I'm like, wow, how did I think of that? That's wild.
Well, that's the thing. If you're a trailblazer, you're inspiring others. So yeah, you're getting your own inspiration. You get inspiration from your own imagination, which is amazing. Can you still be surprised by flavour?
Yeah. Every time I taste a ferment, it tastes different. It's really frustrating, but also really interesting because it's transformative in a way that it's sometimes chaotic and the microorganisms produce erratic results that you will never necessarily expect. Sometimes they're pleasant, sometimes they're not. But even more than that, I'm always, when you taste a single ingredient and it is the best version of itself that you've ever had, it's always surprising. Like those new potatoes in Denmark, or like the first time I had a mangosteen in Thailand. I'm trying to chase that experience again, and every time I taste them I'm just like so stunned by how delicious they are. Have you had them?
No.
They're a type of fruit that has a hard outer shell, but you can crack it in your hand, and when it splits open, there's little pods and like little white. They sometimes encase around a seed, but they're all kind of attached in like a little circle, and then you pull them off like an orange segment and eat them, and they're floral and sweet and delicious. They have acidity. It's so beautiful.
Well, I only just discovered finger limes very late in my life, my life journey here, because I just don't feel like I saw them at all in New Zealand. I've been here 13 years, but...
finger limes are a cultivated hybrid in Australia, grown in Australia.
But they're astounding. I find them astounding.
Yeah, we used them as a novelty when I was like very young in Boston.
Oh, right.
Because they're like
know that.
vegetarian caviar.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they just pop, and
Yeah.
they look beautiful. Just remember my first experience of those going, what is this? So with all that in mind, and your vast experience and the way you see the culinary world, what would your advice be to a young person starting out as a chef?
So I think that when you choose the life journey that you want to go on, if that's a chef, but this can apply to other careers as well. When you're in your autonomous journey, make decisions based on what you want to achieve. So let's say we're talking about fermentation, and this is the advice I give to young chefs with fermentation. Don't do something because it's cool. Do something because it's something that you want to learn, and understand what you want to achieve. So if you're fermenting something, understand why you're fermenting it. Understand the final product that you want from it. So that can be applied to a lot of other aspects in life as well. Being a chef is extremely rewarding and very difficult work. So when you do put in that hard work and you do a little bit of like life journey and research on your own, you take what you basically put into it, but always do it based on who you are and what your identity is, because if you're not giving yourself what you need, then you're not going to get what you need from it.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're my first podcast for the year, and I think you've set the bar really high. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Conversation with a Chef with Caitlin Koether at Little Molli in Abbotsford. You can check out all the goodness on Instagram at little.molli, MOLLI.Abbotsford, or in person at 66 Nicholson Street. That's the Nicholson Street in Abbotsford, because that's a trap for young players because of the other Nicholson Street, definitely in Abbotsford. You should also check out Caitlin's Instagram because her photos are beautiful. That's at Caitlin with an I, so CAITLIN.Koether, KOETHER. If you'd like to hear more stories from other chefs, I'm on Instagram at Conversation with a Chef. You can read the chat and become a subscriber at www.conversationwithachef.com, and of course you can follow me on Apple and Spotify podcasts. I would absolutely love it if you told a friend about my chats, because that's still the best way to get the stories out there. Once again, thanks so much for listening. Have a great day and bon appétit.